wilderness of the Negev desert, the Bedouin have thrived for 7 centuries. Loyalty to the land is the central code of honour to these tribal people. The Bedouins survive by growing cereal crops and herding livestock. But this traditional way of life is about to end for these desert dwellers. Israel claims this camp doesn't exist. It's a so-called unrecognised village, one of 45 earmarked for destruction. This is the story of one nation's quest to urbanise a nomadic people. It's part of a move to take land from some citizens to give to others. The Bedouin of Israel pay taxes, serve in the army, most even speak Hebrew. But because of what's happening here, they feel like outcasts in their own country. Israel sees the Negev desert as its new frontier, a sparse landscape it can settle with Jewish immigrants. But in the way are some of its own citizens, the Bedouin.
You warn them, you give them an extension of time, but at some point you just have to remove them from that particular piece of land which is not theirs.
I've come to the northern Negev and to the home of the Al-Azazmeh family. Assalamu alaikum. They're from one of the 7 main Bedouin tribes here. Sheikh Salama Al-Azazmeh can't tell me his age, but he was certainly here before the State of Israel was created in 1948.
عندي جمال وبشرب لبن جمال وبشرب لبن غنم وبنطحن على الرحاه وعايشين بعيشتنا احسن حياه هذاك الحين عندنا ما في احد لا بخلعك ولا احد بيقول لك كذي ولا احد بيقول لك شيء من هذا.
4 generations of the family live here. The women tend to the cooking and look after the camp. But soon they're on the move. Israeli officials told them they want this land for a military firing range, and the Al-Azazmehs have been served with an eviction order. The Bedouin are sceptical of the government's motives. Just a couple of 100 metres from their camp is a new Israeli-built chicken farm. The Bedouin of the Negev were granted title to this land under the British administrators and the Ottoman Turks before them. Now the State of Israel wants them out, in a campaign supervised by its Deputy Prime Minister.
The Bedouins live in the Negev. However, over the years, they have spread into lands which is not theirs in the first place. It is a land owned by others, either by the government or by others. And they don't behave according to the traditional rules that govern all of us.
The Al-Azazmeh family is exercising its right as Israeli citizens to fight eviction in the courts. But the family knows that not one Bedouin has beaten the state.
من المدينة بالي رايح أبدا لما أروح للبلاد تحت يدفنوني فيها لما أموت بخليها له.
This is Israel's Bedouin policy at work. It's Dole Day in Rahat, a crowded township of 45,000 people. Hours before the town's only bank opens, Israeli Bedouin queue for their welfare money. These dignified people used to be herders and crop farmers.
Sorry, you are not allowed until you will have our permission.
Rahat is one of 7 special townships established by Israel in its push to urbanize the Bedouin. This is Israel's most disadvantaged community. Crime is rampant, 7 out of 10 adults don't have a job, and the children roam the streets instead of going to school. Ahmed Al-Kranawi was one of the first Bedouin to move to Rahat, and he found it difficult to shake his farming past. Keeping sheep in his backyard has made him unpopular with his neighbours and the authorities.
יחסים בכלל לא טובים. זה כמו בית סוהר. הכל כאן, אתה לא יכול לפתוח אפילו חלון היום כאן. אתה לא רואה את האוויר. אתה פותח חלון, זה מסתכל עלינו, השכנים אומרים.
Ahmed is more comfortable lighting a campfire in the backyard than he is sitting inside his house. His tents are a reminder of his family's heritage. He, like most others in Rahat, relies on the dole.
עושה לי, איך אומרים את זה? עושה לי כאבי לב. אני לפעמים הולך לאנשים שגרים במדבר, אני הולך להם, נרגיש את החיים הרגועים, השקטים, הרוח הטובה. אפילו האוויר הצח הזה, מתגעגע אליו. חסר לנו. הכל אין, הכל כאן משובש. אפילו האוויר כאן סתם לא נקי כאן.
Ahmed's suburban block cost him the equivalent of 10 sheep. Israel is luring Bedouin to towns with the promise of water, electricity and land that it practically gives away.
I think that we should be ashamed of some of the treatment. I believe that they're lacking citizen rights.
There are some in Israel's parliament who don't like the way the government is treating its own people. Colette Avital leads a bloc of opposition MPs in the Knesset defending Bedouin rights.
Every citizen in Israel is by law compelled to send children to school. Education is compulsory. But the fact that we do not allow those Bedouins to have their own schools or not enough schools in their own settlements means that we do not observe the law, we ourselves. So I think that what we have to fight for is that Israel should abide by its own laws.
What are you talking about? Of course, we provide electricity and services to those who live in the Negev in the townships, but you can't build as independent, separate infrastructure for every tent in every corner in the Negev.
Israel believes there's good reason for freeing up the Negev. It plans to pull thousands of Jewish settlers out of the nearby Gaza Strip and relocate as many as possible in the desert. At the same time, the government wants to make living in the Negev desert illegal for its Bedouin citizens. What happened on this rise is typical of Israel's determination to enforce its townships policy. It was a summer's day in July. The 10 members of the Al-Moureh family were tending their herd when a notorious Israeli paramilitary unit known as the Green Patrol arrived unannounced. Using tractors, they flattened the Bedouins' flimsy homes. The Al-Moureh family could only watch as their desert lifestyle came to an end. In the last 2 years, Israel's tactics have become even more drastic. The most extraordinary claim is that the government used aircraft to spray poison over the crops of Bedouin farmers. But you do spray crops where there are women and children.
I don't know about that. No, I don't think it's true.
It is true, and the Deputy Prime Minister heads the department behind the operation. This vision, obtained by foreign correspondent, shows the aerial poisoning of a wheat crop south of Rahat 2 years ago.
There have been reports, you know how many times reports can be inaccurate, particularly on these issues. Probably the Bedouins claim that this was done, but certainly this is not a policy of the Israeli government.
A fortnight before that interview, Israel's own High Court acknowledged that aerial spraying had taken place. It ordered the practice to stop. So Minister Olmert, do you think he's being a bit disingenuous by saying he doesn't know what's going on?
I hope that as a minister he should know better. Maybe I trust that the man doesn't usually say something which is not true, but basically I'm sure and convinced that he doesn't have all the facts, and I will be more than glad to provide him with those facts.
How are you? I'm crossing the so-called Green Line from Israel into the Palestinian territory of the West Bank. I've come to see how other Arab farmers fare. These people are under military occupation. This land was seized in the 1967 war. Since then, Israel has tightened its grip, building Jewish settlements that sit like fortresses on dozens of hillsides. Israel still regulates every aspect of life here, despite promises of Palestinian autonomy. Like the Bedouin, Palestinian farmers have worked their land for generations. At the village of Mafagara in the Hebron Hills, families are literally digging themselves in. The Israelis have threatened to demolish any external man-made structures. Mahmoud Hussein Hamamdi, like others here, is a cave dweller. I paid him a visit as he was extending the family home.
זה מגדל, למה יש לי עכשיו 11 ילדים ואני באישה זה 13 ואישה של הבן זה 14 אז אין מקום מספיק בשביל לישון ואנחנו כולם ישנים ביחד פה אנחנו ישנים ופה ישנים הצול
Mahmoud Hussein Hamamdi doesn't have mains power or running water.
Hello.
But thanks to a nearby Jewish settlement, he has phone coverage. It means he can talk to his lawyer about the eviction notice the Israelis have served.
לא נעזוב. לא נעזוב. איפה אין ללכת וללכת?
The Israeli-occupied West Bank is also home to more than 200,000 Jewish settlers. Each year, their numbers swell and their hold on the hilltops strengthens. The squabbling over land in the Hebron Hills is a microcosm of the seemingly intractable conflict, which is the Israeli-Palestinian dispute. At the Arab village of Tuwani, the army has been called in by Palestinian farmers. They claim their children are stoned and harassed as they walk to school each day, along a road that passes the Jewish settlement. When we tried to speak to the settlers to get their side, they declined in no uncertain terms.
Go away! Nobody wants you people. You're trouble, that's all you are. You came to stir up the pot.
Why won't you give us 5 minutes of your time?
Every place you go, you bring anguish to people. Go home, don't come back.
Next door to the government-sanctioned settlement of Ma'on, a group of Israeli renegades has set up home in caravans amongst the trees. While the government regards this outpost as illegal, nothing is being done to remove it. Palestinian farmers complain their Jewish neighbours destroy their crops and poison their wells. Many Israelis too are outraged by what they've seen.
They're fellow citizens, but unfortunately those fellow citizens make my life and the life of everybody else here quite miserable, I believe.
Amongst the forest.
Right.
Solomka Danayevsky works with Tayayosh,
It's a natural reserve supposed to be, you know.
an organisation trying to bring Israelis and Palestinians together.
I came blessed to those activities because I had to recover. You know,
It was on this windswept hill below the Jewish outpost that she saw how the settlers treated their Palestinian neighbours.
all of a sudden, while drinking tea, we heard shoutings. We didn't understand what it was. We understood that the settlers are attacking. He had a gun and he was shooting. There was a Palestinian standing not far, a few meters from him, and they were shouting, arguing, and he was shooting at his legs, around his legs. I got a wound from a shrapnel at the bottom of my palm, and it bled quite a bit, but after it wasn't a serious wound, fortunately. Israel is trying to make a mild ethnic cleansing. She wants the land here, it's very close to the Green Line, and she wants as much land as with less Palestinians as possible on this land.
Both Arabs and Jews trace their heritage to the land which lies between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. Conflict over that territory lies at the very heart of the Israeli-Palestinian dispute. But it's increasingly become a population war, with Israel concerned that within a few years, Arabs will outnumber Jews. 40 years ago, Israeli war hero and politician Moshe Dayan set the agenda for what's happening today. He said Israel and all its citizens had to modernize or perish. Moshe Dayan had a vision. He said, we must turn the Bedouin into urban labourers who come home in the evening and he puts on his slippers. Does your government share that vision?
Well, if they don't want to use the slippers, I think we can compromise on that. But basically, coming to your home, yes, not having 4 wives, yes, and so on. So, we know that they were accustomed to a different living. But we also know that in the long run, it has to change. And I think that what we try to do is to help them change in a very careful and a very tolerant way.
Those people who are loyal citizens of the State of Israel, who serve in the army, who've always maintained good citizenship, who are paying taxes, we risk to turn them into enemies, and this is not a very clever policy.
It's been said that the Bedouin sees bounty where everyone else perceives barrenness. Now Israel sees the desert in the same light. The World Zionist Organization wants to settle another 350,000 Jewish immigrants in Israel by the end of the decade. This desert has never looked more like a promised land to so many people.